You might assume that kindness and loyalty are unquestionable virtues, yet at times, they become subtle traps. Often, people around you don't appreciate who you truly are, but rather the advantages they gain from your presence. Until you recognize that, they'll drain your time and affection without you even noticing, and when awareness dawns, it may already be too late. Welcome to Machiavelli. Here, the mechanisms of true power are revealed, from the psychology of persuasion to the strategies that have shaped empires and steered crowds. All that remains hidden about leadership, ambition, emotional mastery, and mental confrontation is found here. Prepare to see reality as it is, a contest of intellect, not goodwill. We've long been told that generosity is always repaid and loyalty is sacred, but behind that belief lies a serious misconception. A notable political thinker pointed out that if you don't benefit from others, they will surely profit from you, often without your awareness. You offer presence when someone feels isolated, calm when tension rises, and validation when pride seeks attention. You share your resources, invest your dedication, and spread your enthusiasm. Yet, many who receive this devotion return only a fraction of it. Some offer no thanks at all, though they might smile and flatter you just enough to keep you giving. That thinker held up a mirror. Our tendency to trust in others' good intentions often blinds us to their underlying motives. Understanding this truth means accepting that most human connections are based on practical exchanges rather than idealistic selflessness. I often realized I was merely the prelude to a request, that what seemed like genuine companionship vanished when my time or real effort began to dwindle. This isn't about bitterness. It's a clear look at how human interactions function, something Machiavelli dissected with surgical precision. He advised seeing beyond the surface and grasping the underlying dynamics. How can one recognize this quiet maneuver before being ensnared? What if Machiavelli not only got it right, but captured the nuances of daily life in his theories? It wasn't that he despised humanity. Rather, he grasped its innermost drives. His aim wasn't to darken the world, but to expose the illusion of a fair, predictable realm where good always prevails. Once these unspoken rules are understood, one can act with awareness instead of losing by default in a game that's already underway. Those who constantly justify their actions to gain approval, who endlessly forgive until they're walked over, or who help without asking for balance often end up used, drained entirely, then replaced like worn-out tools. This stems from the naive belief that others share their values. If I'm loyal, loyalty will return. If I give from the heart, I'll receive gratitude. But many people respond only to what serves their current interests. Machiavelli relentlessly pointed out that human nature remains unchanged. Each person seeks personal advantage. I saw it firsthand. I offered help hoping for nothing but a kind gesture in return, and instead found new expectations placed upon me. It was like pouring into a bottomless barrel. He didn't suggest nurturing bitterness, but rather urged us to weigh carefully what we give against what we receive. His advice was to replace blind hope with strategic awareness and restraint. Genuine strength lies in choosing wisely whom to support and how much to offer. When attention, time, and energy are treated as limited assets, every act becomes a conscious decision that retains meaning. Once others realize they can access your loyalty or resources effortlessly, they will, not from malice, but out of convenience. That easy access becomes tempting, and without boundaries, one risks becoming a constant target for others' needs. Acting according to your own rules may sound defiant, doesn't it? For Machiavelli, it isn't about malice or deceit, but rather a matter of strategic exchange. He encourages us to recognize the value of what we offer and to avoid giving it away indiscriminately. I recall times when my time and advice were treated as if they were inexhaustible, until I began to limit my availability. That's when people started valuing what was no longer freely or constantly accessible. The author invites us to become strategists of our own lives, rather than passive benefactors. This raises a question. How can we maintain that control without falling into permanent suspicion, always expecting someone to take advantage? Where does strategic conduct end and cynicism begin? Since childhood, we were told that exploiting others was wrong, but rarely were we taught that everyone, in one way or another, uses others. The difference lies in whether it's done intentionally or unconsciously, and whether it benefits just one side or serves both. When we offer our value without limits, as if it flows endlessly, we eventually become drained. If we make ourselves constantly available, we will eventually be replaced by someone more convenient. However, when we clearly define what others can expect from us, how and when, we turn a one-sided giving into a more balanced exchange. By severing ties when respect or reciprocity vanishes, we reclaim control. This approach not only allows us to resist pressure, but also helps preserve our influence, coherence, and resources. It's not a call for constant conflict, but rather a reflection on how we manage our relationships. If Machiavelli lived today, he might warn, "Don't let your generosity make you the naive one among calculated investors." I often see talented individuals waste their energy on those who never acknowledge it, then wonder why their life isn't progressing. The Florentine thinker advised taking the helm of one's ship rather than drifting at the mercy of others' agendas. So what's the remedy when we're already entangled in toxic ties? How can we tell who genuinely needs support from those simply exploiting goodwill? No one wakes up suddenly aware they're being used. It's a slow, nearly imperceptible process, fueled by friendly smiles, polite thank yous, and convincing explanations. By the time you feel completely drained, the cost has already been too high. Machiavelli didn't face betrayal with resignation. He trained himself, and taught others, to detect even the subtlest signals of an approaching storm. His world, so similar to ours, shows that those who avoid being taken advantage of are the ones with keen instincts, able to recognize when the invisible game begins. Sometimes, you'll hear nothing for ages, until they suddenly need sound advice, emotional support, a quick favor, or just someone to vent to. That's when your name and number reappear, with no interest in your plans, achievements, difficulties, or emotional state. They don't pretend to care, because to them, you're a reliable, ever-available resource until you're not useful anymore. Machiavelli invites us to develop the discernment of a courtier, alert to even the slightest shift in the ruler's mood, not out of paranoia, but out of cautious attentiveness. Too often we dismiss these signs as chance or someone else's bad day, only to regret it later. He urges us to reinforce intuition with careful observation. Where are those faint signals that can help us avoid a trap? How do we learn to say no in a way that doesn't damage connections, but instead strengthens our own boundaries? Some people believe they're entitled to our constant availability. They expect immediate answers and unending donations of time and energy without gratitude or reciprocity. They treat our personal space as a free, limitless service. When we begin to withdraw and safeguard our well-being, they don't reflect on their actions or appreciate the impact of their demands. They simply react with offense and call us selfish. They do this because they never built a genuine bond with us. They connected with what we gave them and the benefits they received. When that supply is cut off, they label us villains for breaking an unspoken agreement. Machiavelli would describe this as a parasitic relationship, fueled by one-sided dependence and devoid of mutual loyalty or respect. The moment you recognize that lingering feeling of "they owe me," you respond with, "No, I need space for myself," and stop overexerting yourself to please others. That's usually when they start accusing you of becoming cold or distant, a form of emotional blackmail disguised as constructive criticism. When you stop being so useful or convenient, they try to make you feel guilty for asserting yourself. Yet Machiavelli would remind us that immature people fear boundaries, while mature individuals respect them. These limits are not walls, but signals that guide others on how to treat you. I remember once saying no to someone who sought my approval. That simple act filled me with vitality and self-respect, just the kind of lesson I imagine being taught with precision. But what happens when the one making demands is someone you love? Are there ways to navigate such complex ties, or is it wiser to draw clearer lines? We often offer unconditional support, listening closely, showing empathy, and offering advice. And in return, with stubborn persistence, they repeat the same old patterns, make the same mistakes, and drain us with endless stories. Because they don't really want to change, they prefer to stay in their comfort zones, even if it comes at our expense. Some people aren't meant to transform, but rather to be carried by others, to have their problems solved and be kept afloat while they glide effortlessly along. And as long as you keep holding them up, they'll never feel the urgency to stand on their own and steer the course of their lives. You'll notice they praise you only after you've given up your time, altered your plans, crossed your boundaries, and sacrificed your peace of mind. They applaud, not for who you are, but for what you're willing to surrender for their ease. This isn't love, it's the worship of convenience. And the most skilled manipulators keep the generous ones on a very short leash. A sharp observer like Machiavelli would warn that once you perceive this dynamic, it's crucial to act swiftly. Otherwise, you'll bear the guilt of having enabled it. Those who refuse to help themselves prolong both their own suffering and yours by clinging to your support. I've seen many wear themselves out in vain, hoping for a change that never comes. Machiavelli advises directing our efforts toward those who show a genuine willingness to grow and reciprocate, not to those who merely seek comfort at our expense. Recognizing this toxic pattern and refusing to become an eternal crutch doesn't mean abandoning empathy. It means lightening your burden to preserve your dignity and offering help in a balanced way. In the seemingly impenetrable realm of human relations, there's no need to turn into a cold manipulator or that ruthless figure you despise. What's truly essential is to make a radical shift from playing the passive role of someone endlessly used to actively choosing when and how to engage with others and circumstances in service of your integrity and growth. For much of life, many people operate defensively, fiercely guarding their fragile emotions and clinging to scraps of inner peace, naively hoping others will fully recognize their generosity. But the author of The Prince, a master of political intrigue and human motivation, never merely reacted. He positioned himself deliberately, took advantage of situations and relationships without ever being labeled disloyal. That change in outlook represents an existential transformation, no longer a drained resource, but someone who chooses who has access to you and why. It's about leaving behind the role of pawn in someone else's game and stepping into your own strategy as the main player. Personally, when I stopped the constant tension of anticipating others' needs and prioritizing their satisfaction, I regained energy and, more importantly, self-respect. It's not about pretending to be a wolf if you're a sheep. It's about refusing to remain prey. The real challenge lies in embracing this new stance without losing your capacity for empathy or becoming a calculating automaton, striking a firm balance between protecting your boundaries and preserving your human warmth. Perhaps Machiavelli wasn't encouraging manipulation of others, but rather warning about a mechanism of self-preservation. The harsh truth is that few relationships are founded on genuine reciprocity or selflessness. Most, when examined closely, reveal themselves to be disguised arrangements where each party seeks its own goals, sometimes subtly, almost imperceptibly. You offer your time, and in return receive a momentary escape from your own problems. You give loyalty and gain the illusion of comfort. You provide emotional stability and, in exchange, face mood swings or growing distance. The more balanced a bond may appear, the easier it is to overlook the underlying asymmetry. A sharp observer like Machiavelli would examine your relationships, whether in friendship, romance, or business, and first ask what others truly expect from you, and then what you are actually receiving in return. If what you gain is negligible compared to what you give, he would choose to walk away, quietly, without guilt or drama. Remaining, consciously or not, in a lopsided exchange is not an act of virtue but a path to self-destruction. Many people keep giving simply because they believe it's what they're supposed to do, out of guilt or out of loyalty to a painful past. They exhaust themselves trying to help, not because it makes sense, but because they can't envision an alternative. Machiavelli's view rejected the notion of pure altruism. He advocated for a calculated and strategic form of generosity. Before taking action, he would ask, how does this strengthen my path? What value does it truly bring? What is the real cost? Not just financial, but emotional and energetic. Will it support the other's growth or turn me into a crutch that hinders their independence? If the answers didn't align with his long-term goals, he would rather refrain, not out of coldness, but out of clarity and an understanding of the forces that govern life. For him, once your skills and resources are seen as strategic assets, regret fades away. What matters are the tangible outcomes of your choices. This outlook is not cynical. It's a higher form of pragmatism aimed at self-preservation and personal growth. For a long time, I lived by the motto, act without expecting anything in return, until I realized that this detachment had turned my surroundings into a swamp where my energy and dreams were sinking. Learning to assess what I offer in relation to what I receive helped me build relationships that are more honest and balanced. It's not about demanding compensation for every gesture. It's about ensuring that what matters to you isn't taken for granted. By setting clear boundaries around your time and attention, you protect your integrity and your vital space.